Chapter 9. The Gathering Storm. The ruined temple smouldered in the faint morning light, the last embers of Azural's fire curling up from the blackened stone. The air was thick with the scent of charred stone and scorched earth, and the dark magic that had once clung to the place now felt faint, like a ghost dispersed by the dawn. Azural's small band moved away from the ruins, the villagers walking with a renewed sense of strength, their expressions grim but resolute. They had seen Vyuva's magic broken before them. They had seen the fire that defied him. For the first time they could imagine standing against him and winning. Talvar walked beside her, his gaze steady, though his expression was tinged with caution. That was a strong blow to him, Azural, but it was still only one of many places where his power lingers. He'll be watching us more closely now, sending his agents with orders to stop us, maybe even strike before we're ready. Azural nodded, her thoughts racing. She could feel Vyuva's presence lurking at the edge of her mind, the sense of his power ever closer. She knew Talvar was right. Vyuva would not wait patiently while she dismantled his influence. Soraya fell into step beside her, her voice calm. We need allies, more than we have now. There are places in this land that resist him, even under his shadow, places where people remember what freedom feels like. If we gather enough of them, we could strike at him directly. Azural frowned, but her mind turned over Soraya's words. Each encounter with Vyuva's followers, each moment in the darkness of his temples, had shown her the depths of his hold on the land. Yet the people still had a will of their own, a flame that flickered even in the shadows. They had been frightened, divided, but now there was a spark, one that could catch if only she could fan it. She turned to her companions, her voice strong. Then we find them, villages, fighters, anyone willing to stand against him. We give them something worth fighting for. They travelled through the morning and into the afternoon, moving swiftly over rocky hills and through dense forest. The villagers who had joined them carried weapons and supplies with grim determination, their steps resolute. Azural could see the change in them. They had begun this journey in fear, but they now walked with purpose, their backs straight, their eyes clear. As they walked, Soraya recounted stories of hidden strongholds, places that had defied Vyuva's reach. There are people out there, she said, survivors who hide in the wastelands and forests, holding on to the last remnants of what was once free. Some of them have skills and knowledge of Vyuva's tactics. They would be invaluable. Talvar's gaze was thoughtful as he listened. Then let's find them. The more we know, the better prepared we'll be. Their path led them through the thick of the forest, and by dusk they reached a clearing where a cluster of makeshift huts and tents rose from the ground, hidden from sight by the dense trees surrounding it. A few guards stood watch, their expressions wary, but they held their ground as Azural and her group approached, their eyes narrowing with distrust. Azural stepped forward, her voice clear and firm. We come seeking allies. We're here to break Vyuva's hold on this land. The guards exchanged glances, and one of them, a woman with a scar running down her cheek, crossed her arms, a hint of defiance in her gaze. Many have tried to stand against Vyuva. Few have returned to speak of it. Azural met her gaze without flinching. Then you'll have the chance to see it yourself. We've already destroyed one of his temples, broken the chains he had over a nearby village. Vyuva isn't invincible. He can be fought. The woman's eyes narrowed, assessing Azural. Her gaze shifted to Soraya and Talvar, taking in their wary yet steadfast stances. After a moment, she nodded and signalled to her fellow guards. Very well. If you've truly stood against him, our leader will want to hear what you have to say. They were led through the camp, passing groups of people huddled around fires, their faces shadowed with worry and weariness. But as they caught sight of Azural and her small band, whispers rippled through the crowd, murmurs of hope and disbelief. In the largest tent sat a man with a hardened face, his posture rigid, every line of his body marked by years of war and survival. He watched them approach, his gaze sharp, untrusting. The guard spoke quietly in his ear, and his expression shifted, a flicker of interest breaking through the tension. "So you're the one stirring up trouble in Viova's shadows," he said, his voice low and rough. "You've got the look of fighters, but tell me, why should we risk our lives for a stranger's cause?" Azural's eyes met his with a fierce intensity. "Because it isn't just my cause. This land belongs to you, your people. Viova's shadows have poisoned it, but it can be reclaimed. We can break his hold, village by village, temple by temple. But I need those willing to stand beside me, to turn that fear into something that could destroy him." The leader's gaze lingered on her, his expression unreadable. Finally, he nodded slowly. "If you speak true, and if you truly have the power to fight him, then you may have our support. But be warned, Viova's forces know these lands well. They are ruthless, and they will come for you with everything they have." Azural clenched her fists, feeling the fire pulse within her. "Let them. I have something they don't. I have fire that won't bow to shadows." The leader's gaze softened, a glimmer of respect flickering in his eyes. "Very well. We will stand with you. Our people have been waiting for a spark. Maybe you're the one to set it ablaze." Word spread quickly through the camp, and as night fell, Azural and her companions gathered around the largest fire. The villagers and fighters who had joined them from the first village mingled with the new allies, exchanging stories, sharing the weight of their experiences. Talvar spoke with a small group of scouts, learning of the surrounding terrain, while Soraya quietly discussed Viova's known tactics with a circle of seasoned fighters. Azural stood a little apart from the others, watching the fire flicker in the dark, her mind turning over everything that lay ahead. She felt the eyes of the people on her, their hopes and fears pressing down like a weight she couldn't shake. She had lit a fire within them, yes, but now they looked to her to lead it, to keep it burning, to see it through to the end. The flickering flames reminded her of her own power, the fierce yet unpredictable force within her. She had yet to fully understand it, to fully control it, and that uncertainty gnawed at her. She clenched her fists, feeling the heat simmer beneath her skin. "I will not fail them. I cannot fail them." A voice broke her thoughts, Soraya standing beside her, her gaze gentle but knowing. "It's not an easy thing to carry the hopes of others," she said softly. "But they see strength in you, Azural. You have given them something they thought they had lost." Azural glanced at her, her expression tense. "I only hope it's enough. I still don't understand this fire within me. I barely know who I am, let alone what I'm capable of." Soraya nodded, her gaze thoughtful. "The fire is wild, yes, but it is also yours. You are not defined by it, nor by the shadows that sought to control you. Viova may have tried to mark you as his, but you have defied him. Remember that. Whatever he did to you, it does not bind you. You are free to choose." Azural's jaw tightened. "Then I choose to destroy him, to burn away every shadow he's cast over these lands." Soraya's expression softened. "And that choice is what makes you stronger than he could ever be." They stood in silence, watching the fire, feeling the weight of what lay ahead. Talvar joined them, his face somber, though his gaze held a fierce determination. "I've spoken with the scouts," he said. "There's another of Viova's temples not far from here, hidden deep within the mountains. It's heavily guarded, but if we can take it down, it would deal a powerful blow to his influence in this region." Azural's eyes hardened. "Then we move at dawn. The more we weaken his hold, the closer we get to facing him." Talvar nodded, his voice steady. "It won't be an easy fight. His forces are trained to keep him shielded. We'll need everyone at their best." Azural glanced back at the gathered allies, the faces lit by firelight, each one marked by a story of loss, each one fueled by the shared hope of reclaiming their home. She could feel the fire within them, a fierce unity that Viova had tried to extinguish, but had only strengthened. She turned back to Talvar and Soraya, her voice low but resolute. will give them the fight of their lives, and will burn his shadows to the ground. They nodded, and as the night deepened, the sense of purpose among their allies grew, a quiet yet unbreakable resolve. Azural felt it like a fire in her blood, a surge of determination that blazed hotter than any fear or doubt. Dawn would come soon, and with it, another battle, a step closer to ending Vuva's reign and reclaiming what he had stolen. Azural knew that she carried the hope of these people, that they looked to her as their flame in the dark. And as she stood there, the first light of dawn breaking over the horizon, she knew she would not let them down. Vuva's shadows awaited, but she was ready to face them head-on, to bring her fire to the heart of his corruption. Tomorrow they would fight, and tomorrow the flames would rise.